When every species fled, humanity stood their ground. Part 1. The massive alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning. One moment the skies were clear, and the next, a vessel larger than anything humans had ever built hung above the planet, like a metallic moon. William Carter stood at the window of Space Defense Command headquarters, his eyes fixed on the satellite feed. After 20 years in Earth's united military forces, he thought nothing could surprise him anymore. He was wrong. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission," said Olivia Miller, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. As the lead xenobiologist for the North American Alliance, she had spent her career preparing for this moment, though she never truly believed it would come. William nodded. "Put it through." The screen flickered, and a being appeared that defied human imagination. It had 4 arms, a carapace that shimmered with iridescent colors, and compound eyes that reflected the light like dark gemstones. "People of Earth," the creature spoke in perfect English, surprising everyone present. "I am Zexthal of the Galactic Council. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic relations with your species." The room erupted in whispers. William raised a hand for silence. "This is Commander William Carter of Earth. We welcome peaceful contact. May I ask how you learned our language so quickly?" The alien made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "We have been observing your broadcasts for some time. Your planet became visible to us when you developed faster-than-light communications last year. Over the next few days, Earth's government scrambled to form a unified response. William and Olivia were selected to lead the first diplomatic mission, to meet with the Council representatives aboard their ship. "I don't like this," said Eric Jones, William's security chief, as they prepared to board the shuttle. "It's too convenient." William checked his sidearm, a motion born of habit rather than any real expectation he would need it. "Nothing about first contact was ever going to be comfortable, Eric. Wait here with the shuttle. If we're not back in 6 hours, return to Earth and tell them everything." The alien vessel was even more impressive from inside. Corridors stretched for what seemed like miles, with ceilings so high they disappeared into shadows. The air smelled, faintly, of cinnamon and ozone. Zexthal met them in what appeared to be a conference room, though the furniture was clearly designed for beings with different body shapes. 2 other aliens stood nearby, one with pale blue skin and tentacle-like appendages, another that looked almost like a walking tree. "Welcome," said Zexthal. "These are representatives from some of the 27 species that form our council. We hope Earth will become the 28th. 27 different intelligent species." Olivia couldn't hide her excitement. "The scientific exchange possibilities are endless." William remained more cautious. "What exactly does joining this council involve?" The meeting lasted hours. They learned that the Galactic Council had existed for thousands of years, governing trade routes, mediating disputes between species, and sharing technology. Earth was being offered a chance to join because humans had reached the technological threshold that made them visible to the galactic community. "Your development curve is quite remarkable," said the blue-skinned alien, whose name sounded like a series of musical notes. "Most species take twice as long to reach your current state." As Zexthal explained the benefits of membership, Olivia noticed something odd. Whenever she asked specific questions about defense protocols or the location of other Council species' home planets, the aliens would glance at each other briefly before answering with carefully worded responses. When they broke for what Zexthal called a refreshment pause, Olivia pulled William aside. "They're hiding something," she whispered. "Did you notice how they tense up when we mention certain topics?" William nodded slightly. "Keep watching and listening, but remember, we're here to establish peaceful relations if possible." The tour continued through laboratories, cultural exhibits, and observation decks that showed the vastness of space from new angles. Each area revealed marvels of technology far beyond human development. Gravity control, instant matter transportation, and energy sources that could power Earth for centuries with a device the size of a car. "This is what we offer," Zexthal said. "Access to the combined knowledge of 27 civilizations, some of which have been exploring space for millennia." "And what do you want in return?" William asked directly. The alien's compound eyes seemed to darken slightly. A new perspective. Humans think differently than any species we have encountered. Your adaptability, your problem-solving approaches, The alien paused, searching for the right word. Your tenacity. These are valuable to us. That evening, back in their assigned quarters aboard the alien vessel, William and Olivia compared notes. They're impressed by us, but also nervous, Olivia said. I've studied enough Earth species to recognize fear responses. These aliens are afraid of something. William stared out the viewport at Earth below. Not of us. We're barely space-capable compared to them. It must be something else. Their quarters were comfortable but clearly monitored. William found 3 different types of recording devices in the first hour. He left them in place, removing them would only show their hand. That night, while William slept, Olivia couldn't rest. She used the data pad they had been given to access the ship's information network, supposedly as a cultural exchange. She had discovered that with certain search patterns, she could access files not intended for them. William, she whispered, urgently, shaking him awake. Look at this. On the screen was a star map showing massive fleet movements throughout what appeared to be council space. Species were consolidating, pulling back from a large sector that bordered where Earth's solar system was marked. They're retreating from something, William said, fully alert now. All of them. Olivia nodded grimly. And there's more. I found communications mentioning something called the Swarm. Whatever it is, it's coming this way. Just then, their door slid open. Zexthal stood there, compound eyes gleaming in the dim light. You were not meant to find that information yet, the alien said quietly. But perhaps it is better this way. Your species must know the truth before you decide whether to join us. What truth? William stood, positioning himself between the alien and Olivia. The truth about why we really came to Earth. Zexthal's voice carried a new tone, something like resignation mixed with shame. The swarm is approaching, Commander Carter. A hive-mind species that consumes everything in its path. The Council has been fleeing for generations, staying ahead of it, finding new territory. And now it's heading toward Earth, Olivia said, the realization dawning. Yes. Zexthal's upper limbs made a gesture they hadn't seen before. We came to warn you, to offer you a chance to evacuate your best minds, your genetic samples, your cultural artifacts. No species has successfully fought the swarm. William's eyes narrowed. How long do we have? Perhaps 1 Earth year before the first scouts arrive. The main force, maybe 2 years. William and Olivia exchanged looks. In that silent moment, without words, they both knew humanity would not simply flee. Take us back to Earth, William said firmly. Our people need to know what's coming. When every species fled, humanity stood their ground. Part 2. 6 months had passed since the first contact with the Galactic Council. Earth had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Galactic Embassy stood in what was once a national park in Switzerland, its shimmering walls and impossible architecture, a constant reminder that humanity was no longer alone. Inside this building, William Carter adjusted his uniform and prepared for another day of difficult conversations. The council representatives are waiting in the main chamber, said Olivia Miller, who had become Earth's lead expert on alien biology and behavior. Her hair was pulled back tightly, dark circles under her eyes showing the strain of recent weeks. William nodded. And Admiral Jackson? Already there. She doesn't look happy. Admiral Diane Jackson had been chosen to lead Earth's military response to the coming threat. A veteran of the water wars of the 2070s, she understood fighting against overwhelming odds. The main chamber was designed to accommodate beings of various sizes and environmental needs. Some council aliens floated in special tanks. Others needed higher gravity platforms, and a few were hidden behind environmental shields that blocked their natural radiation. Commander Carter, Dr. Miller, greeted Council Elder Thrix, a reptilian, being with scales that changed color with his moods. Currently, they were a dull orange, a sign of stress, Olivia had learned. We were discussing the latest swarm projections. Admiral Jackson stood beside a holographic display showing the movement of what looked like a cloud of red dots approaching from one side of the galaxy. Their advance has accelerated, she said without preamble. Your projections were wrong. The council members shifted uncomfortably. William had noticed this pattern repeatedly. The aliens seemed to provide information only when pressed, and often that information proved incomplete. The swarm's movements can be difficult to predict, said Zexthal, who had remained on Earth as the primary council liaison. We share what we know when we know it. Do you? William asked quietly. The room fell silent. Eric, show them what you found. Eric Peterson stepped forward. Once William's security chief, he now led a team analyzing all council communications. Using a small device, he projected a new set of images. These are transmissions between council homeworlds from the past 3 months, Eric explained. We've only recently managed to decrypt them. They show fleet movements, resource relocations, and evacuation plans that weren't shared with Earth. Council representatives began speaking all at once in their native languages, the translation devices struggling to keep up with the overlapping voices. You misunderstand, said a floating blue alien named Vex. These are precautionary measures only. Admiral Jackson slammed her hand on the table. These are preparations for full-scale retreat. You're planning to leave this sector entirely, aren't you? The silence that followed confirmed her accusation. William looked at each alien face, reading their expressions as best he could across the species barrier. We came to warn you, Zexthal finally said. That was more than most species receive. You came to use us as a buffer, Olivia corrected. You wanted us between you and the swarm to buy you more time to escape. William stepped forward. It doesn't matter why they came. What matters is what we do now. The swarm is coming whether the council stays or goes. Later that evening, William received a mysterious message asking him to come alone to the observatory on top of the embassy. He told Olivia where he was going just in case and made his way up. Council Elder Thrix waited in the shadows, his scales now a deep blue in the dim light. You should not have revealed your knowledge of our communications, Thrix said without greeting. Some council members now view humanity as a potential threat rather than just a sacrificial delay tactic. William crossed his arms. Is that why you called me here? To scold me? No. Thrix moved closer, lowering his voice. I called you here because my species was once in your position. 300 years ago, we were the newcomers, the ones expected, to fall so others could flee. But you survived. Some of us. Enough to rebuild. Thrix's tail swished nervously. The Council will not help you, Commander Carter. They have already written Earth off as lost. Then why are you telling me this? Because I see something in humans that reminds me of my own people. A stubborn refusal to accept defeat. Thrix produced a small crystal from a pouch. This contains all my species knows about the swarm. Their biology, behavior patterns, weaknesses, what few we found. William took the crystal carefully. Why help us when your own council won't? The council operates on fear and self-preservation, but some of us remember what it means to stand together. Thrix looked out at the stars. The swarm can be fought, Commander. Not easily, but it can be done. The next morning, William called an emergency meeting with Earth's defense leaders. Admiral Jackson, Olivia, Eric, and other key personnel gathered in the secure underground facility beneath the embassy. The Council is planning to abandon this sector, William announced. We'll receive no meaningful help from them when the swarm arrives. Instead of panic, he saw grim determination on the faces around him. Then we stand alone, Admiral Jackson said. It won't be the first time humanity has had to fend for itself. William activated the crystal Thrix had given him, the room filled with images of the swarm, insect-like creatures connected by some kind of hive mind, capable of consuming entire planets for resources. Not entirely alone, William said. We have this intelligence, and we have 6 months to prepare before the first swarm scouts arrive. Olivia studied the biological data with growing interest. Their neural network has vulnerabilities, If we can disrupt the connection between the drones and whatever controls them, we need more ships, Admiral Jackson said, and weapons designed specifically for these creatures. Eric pointed to a section of the data. They communicate using a frequency we might be able to jam. We should focus research there. As they planned, a message came through from the embassy above. The council representatives were departing, officially for consultations, but the massive ships lifting off from around the world told the real story. The evacuation had begun. William watched the ships rise through Earth's atmosphere from a monitor in the bunker. "Let them go," Admiral Jackson said beside him. "We don't need fair weather allies." "Send a message to all Earth nations," William ordered. "It's time everyone knew the truth. The swarm is coming. The council is fleeing. And humanity must decide whether to run or stand our ground." The vote took less than 24 hours. Every nation on Earth, despite centuries of conflicts and differences, reached the same conclusion. Earth would not be abandoned. Humanity would not run. They would fight. When every species fled, humanity stood their ground. Part 3. The sound of construction echoed throughout Earth's solar system. Where once there had been quiet research stations and small colonies, now massive defense platforms took shape. Humanity had 3 months until the first swarm scouts arrived, and they used every second. Inside the lunar defense base, William Carter studied the holographic display showing the solar system's new defenses. Red dots indicated completed installations, while yellow showed those still under construction. Too many yellow dots remained. "We need more time," he said to no one in particular. "Time is the one resource we can't manufacture," replied Dr. Lisa Warren, looking up from her workstation. As the lead scientist developing weapons against the swarm, she worked 20-hour days analyzing the data from Elder Thrix's crystal. Lisa pushed her glasses up her nose and pointed to a simulation running on her screen. "The good news is we've made progress understanding their biology. The swarm uses a quantum entanglement process for communication. It's how the individual drones act with a single purpose despite vast distances." "Can we block it?" William asked. "Better." Lisa smiled for the first time in days. "We might be able to disrupt it. Not permanently, but enough to cause confusion in their ranks." Admiral Jackson entered the room, followed by Captain Kyle Bennett. Bennett commanded the EDF Defiance, Earth's newest and largest battleship built using a combination of human ingenuity and borrowed alien technology. "The Mars defense grid is online," Jackson announced, "and the Jupiter moons are nearly there. Captain Bennett's fleet has completed training exercises." Kyle Bennett was young for his position, but his tactical brilliance had earned him command of humanity's first line of defense. "My crews are ready, but we're still learning how to use some of the new systems. The shield technology from Thrix's data is particularly tricky." William nodded. "Keep pushing. We won't get a second chance at this." Just then, Olivia Miller rushed into the room, her face flushed with excitement. "We have visitors." Everyone followed her to the landing bay. A ship unlike any they had seen before was docking, sleek with lines that seemed to bend in impossible ways. When the hatch opened, Elder Thrix emerged, followed by representatives from 3 other alien species. "Elder Thrix," William greeted him with surprise. "The council said you had departed with the others." "The council says many things," Thrix replied, his scales shimmering with a deep purple hue. "Not all of us agree with abandoning this sector. Some of us remember what it means to fight for our homes." He gestured to his companions. "These are representatives from the Volari, the Nexus Collective, and the Dendrid Harmony. Like my people, they believe that running from the swarm merely delays the inevitable. They bring ships, technology, and fighters to stand with humanity." For the first time in months, William felt a glimmer of real hope. The alien allies changed the equation dramatically. Though small in number compared to the full council, they brought knowledge and technology that accelerated Earth's preparations. The Volari were weapons experts, the Nexus Collective specialized in shield systems, and the Dendrids understood biological countermeasures against the swarm. In the command center, human and alien engineers worked side by side, breaking through language and cultural barriers in their shared purpose. "Your species adapts remarkably quickly," observed Krell, a Volari weapons master. as he watched Lisa's team integrate his plasma cannon designs into Earth's defense grid. Necessity, Lisa replied simply. It's always been humanity's greatest teacher. Outside the lunar base, Captain Bennett ran combat drills with mixed crews of humans and aliens aboard the defense fleet. The EDF Defiance led 50 ships in formation exercises, learning to coordinate their movements against simulated swarm attacks. They don't think like us, Kyle explained to his human officers after a particularly difficult drill. The swarm doesn't fear death or care about casualties. Each drone is expendable. They'll sacrifice thousands to achieve an objective. Then we need to make them pay for every inch, responded his first officer, a woman named Samantha Reed. Make the cost too high, Kyle nodded. Exactly. We can't match their numbers, so we have to be smarter. 3 days before the projected arrival of the first swarm scouts, William called together all the military and scientific leaders at the Lunar Command Center. The room was tense as everyone took their seats, human and alien alike. We've done everything possible to prepare, William began. Now I need honest assessments, Dr. Warren. Where do we stand with the disruption technology? Lisa stood. We've developed what we're calling the quantum scrambler. It creates a field that interferes with the swarm's communication network. The effect is temporary. Their system adapts quickly, but it should create a window of confusion we can exploit. Range? Admiral Jackson asked. Limited. About 5,000 kilometers at full power. We've equipped the Defiance and 3 other ships with the technology. William turned to Kyle. Captain Bennett, fleet status. 57 ships combat ready. Another 15 at 80% capacity. The Defiance battle group will engage first, with secondary groups providing defensive coverage for Earth and Mars. Kyle's face was grim but determined. We've run 300 simulations. Our best outcome is still challenging. Everyone understood what he meant. Even in their most optimistic scenarios, losses would be staggering. William looked to Thrix. And your assessment? The alien's scales had turned a deep blue. A color Olivia had learned indicated grave concern. The swarm we face is larger than any my people encountered. Your solar system's resources are particularly attractive to them. They will come with everything they have. Silence fell over the room. Then, from the back, a technician called out, Sir, we're detecting quantum disruptions at the edge of the system. They're early. Screens around the room lit up with warning signals. The outer sensor buoys placed beyond Pluto were going dark one by one. Battle stations, Admiral Jackson ordered, her voice steady. This is not a drill. Throughout the solar system, alarms sounded. On Earth, civilians moved into underground shelters. On Mars and the Moon, defense personnel raced to their positions. In space, the fleet formed up in its planned defensive formation, the Defiance at its center. William watched the main screen as the first visual confirmation came through. The swarm ships looked like dark stars against the blackness of space, their surfaces covered in sharp, irregular protrusions. There were hundreds visible already, with more appearing constantly. They sent more scouts than we anticipated, Thrix said quietly. This is no reconnaissance force. This is an invasion. On the command channel, they heard Captain Bennett's voice, calm despite the circumstances. All ships, maintain formation. Remember your training. We make them pay for every kilometer. William looked around at the determined faces in the command. Center, human, and alien united against a common threat. So it begins, he said softly. Pass the order. Operation Standfast is now active. May God help us all. The first shots of the greatest battle in human history lit up the darkness at the edge of the solar system. When every species fled, humanity stood their ground. Part 4. The battle for the outer solar system lasted 17 hours. When it ended, 32 human and allied ships were destroyed. The swarm had lost hundreds of vessels, but they kept coming. They didn't retreat or regroup. They simply absorbed the losses and pressed forward. In the Lunar Command Center, William Carter watched the tactical display with growing concern. The blue dots representing friendly ships were fewer now, while the red mass of swarm vessels continued to grow. They're adapting to our weapons, Admiral Jackson said. Her uniform wrinkled from 20 hours without rest. The quantum scrambler isn't as effective as it was in the first engagement. Olivia Miller studied the biological readings coming in from the battlefield. The drones we've captured show increased neural shielding. They're evolving their defenses in real time. William turned to Dr. Lisa Warren. Can we modify the scrambler? Lisa's fingers flew across her keyboard. Working on it. Each time we disrupt their network, they adjust the frequency. It's becoming a game of catch-up. On the main screen, they watched as the Defiance led a fighting retreat from Neptune's orbit. Captain Bennett's voice came through, punctuated by static and explosion sounds. We can't hold this position any longer. Falling back to Mars defense. Perimeter as planned. William clicked the comm link. Understood, Captain. Get your people home. The swarm pursued relentlessly. Unlike human ships that needed to conserve fuel and ammunition, the swarm seemed to have endless resources. They consumed matter from ships they destroyed, growing stronger with each victory. They'll reach Mars in 6 hours, Admiral Jackson noted grimly. William nodded. Alert the ground forces. Major Collins needs to be ready. On the surface of Mars, Major Frank Collins prepared his troops for the coming ground assault. The Mars colony, once a scientific outpost of 5,000 people, had been transformed into a fortress. Civilians had been evacuated to Earth months ago, leaving only military personnel. They'll come in waves, Frank told his officers in the underground bunker. Don't get fixated on body count, focus on holding your positions. His second-in-command, Sergeant Alicia Foster, checked her weapon for the 10th time that hour. The men are nervous, sir. They've seen the footage from the outer system battles. Tell them to be nervous after we win, Frank replied. For now, I need them focused. In Earth orbit, Nicole Gray coordinated communications between all defense forces. From her station aboard the orbital platform Freedom, she could connect any unit in the solar system within seconds. Mars Command, this is Earth Control. The fleet will reach your position in 5 hours, 40 minutes. Swarm forces are approximately 20 minutes behind them. Copy that, Earth Control, came the response from Mars. Defense grid is online and ready. Nicole watched her screens carefully. Born with a rare condition that allowed her to process multiple information streams simultaneously, she had become the nervous system of humanity's defense network. Nicole. William's voice came through her private channel. We need a direct link to the Defiance. Captain Bennett has data we need for the next Scrambler update. On it, sir. Nicole's fingers danced across the control panel, finding paths through the communication network that bypassed swarm jamming attempts. Within moments, she had established a secure link. Defiance Actual, this is Earth Control. Patching you through to Lunar Command now. On the bridge of the EDF Defiance, Captain Kyle Bennett wiped blood from a cut above his eye. His ship had taken heavy damage, but the crew had performed admirably. Lunar Command, this is Bennett. Transmitting data packets now. We've identified a pattern in the swarm network changes. Dr. Warren should be able to use this to predict their next adaptation. Williams' voice came through clearly. Good work, Kyle. What's your status? Kyle looked around his damaged bridge. Emergency lighting cast red shadows across exhausted faces. We've lost engines 3 and 4. Life support on decks 5 through 9 is out, but weapons are operational and the crew is still fighting. Fall back to Mars. Help Major Collins. Hold the line. Copy that. The Defiance and the remaining fleet took position around Mars just as the first swarm ships appeared. The battle resumed immediately, more intense than before. On Mars' surface, Frank Collins felt the ground shake as orbital bombardments began. All units prepare for ground contact. They're coming through. The first swarm dropships pierced the atmosphere like falling stars. Point defense guns tracked them, destroying many before they reached the surface, but there were too many to stop completely. They're landing in sectors 4, 7, and 12, Alicia reported, reading from her tactical display. Frank nodded. Just as we predicted. Deploy the mobile units to Sector 7. We hold the others with fixed defenses. The ground battle was unlike anything humanity had ever faced. The swarm drones stood twice as tall as a human, with multiple limbs ending in both natural weapons and technological tools. They moved with a single purpose, sacrificing themselves by the hundreds to overcome defensive positions. In Lunar Command, William and his team watched the battle unfold with growing concern. "They're targeting our communication arrays," Nicole reported from orbit. "3 main relays are down already." "They're learning," Olivia said. "They recognize our command structure now." Dr. Warren burst into the room, her face flushed with excitement. "I've got it. Using Captain Bennett's data, I've created a predictive algorithm for the swarm's network changes. We can stay ahead of their adaptations now." "How quickly can you implement it?" William asked. "The update is already transmitting to all ships with scrambler technology," Lisa replied. "But there's more. I found a way to expand the disruption field. If we can get close enough to what we think is their command ship, we might be able to break the connection to the entire swarm at once." Hope flickered in William's eyes. "How close?" Lisa's expression grew serious. "Point-blank range. Someone would have to take a scrambler device directly to the command ship." On the main screen, they watched as Mars Colony's outer defenses began to fall. The swarm was breaching the perimeter in multiple locations. "We're losing Mars," Admiral Jackson said quietly. William made a decision. "Prepare the backup plan. Earth is our final stand." From Earth orbit, Nicole watched with horror as the signal from Mars Colony grew weaker. "Lunar Command, I'm losing contact with Major Collins's forces." Through bursts of static, they heard Frank's voice. "Overwhelmed. Fall back to inner defenses. Too many of them." Then, a new voice cut through. Captain Bennett from the Defiance. "This is Bennett. We're moving to support the ground forces, deploying all remaining fighters and combat drops." "Negative, Defiance," William ordered. "Mars is lost. We need you back at Earth." There was a long pause before Kyle's response came. "With respect, sir, there are still our people down there. We can buy them time to evacuate." William closed his eyes briefly. "How much time?" "Enough. We'll make sure of it." For the next 12 hours, the battle for Mars raged. The Defiance and 3 other ships held position above the colony, providing cover as transport ships evacuated surviving personnel. On the ground, Frank Collins and his forces fought a desperate retreat to the spaceport. Sergeant Alicia Foster fell defending the main corridor. Frank carried her body himself to the last transport. "That's everyone still alive," he reported as the ship's doors closed. "Colony is lost." From orbit, the Defiance provided covering fire as the transports escaped. The ship took devastating damage in the process, but somehow remained operational. "All transports clear," Kyle reported to Lunar Command. "Defiance is still here, barely." William's voice was thick with emotion. "Get out of there, Captain. That's an order." The battered Defiance limped away from Mars, the last ship to leave. Behind it, the red planet was swarming with enemy forces. The swarm had claimed its first territory in the solar system. Back at Earth, William faced the grim reality. With Mars fallen, they had one final chance to stop the swarm. "All remaining forces will concentrate at Earth," he ordered. "This is where we make our stand." Dr. Warren approached him with determination in her eyes. "I need to speak with you about my plan for the command ship, sir. I think I know how we can win this." William looked at her. "Tell me." When every species fled, humanity stood their ground. Part 5, 3 days after the fall of Mars, the swarm reached Earth's orbit. The planet's defense grid lit up as thousands of weapon systems tracked the approaching enemy. This was humanity's last stand. In the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, William Carter addressed the combined forces of Earth and their alien allies. "Everything we've done has led to this moment," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of responsibility. "The swarm thinks we'll be like all the other species, that will break and run. They're about to learn how wrong they are." Dr. Lisa Warren stood beside a holographic display showing a massive swarm vessel larger than all the others. "We've confirmed this is their command ship. The Queen is inside, controlling the entire hive mind. Our plan is simple but dangerous." She pointed to a modified version of the quantum scrambler. "This device will disrupt the Queen's connection to the swarm, not just temporarily but permanently. However, it must be delivered directly to the command ship and activated at its core." Captain Kyle Bennett, his face still bearing the scars from the battle at Mars, stepped forward. "The Defiance will deliver it. We've repaired what we could, and she has one more fight in her. It's a one-way trip," Admiral Jackson said quietly. Kyle nodded. "My crew understands the stakes." William looked at his old friend. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," Lisa interrupted. "We've run every simulation. The Queen's ship is too well protected. We need to get inside, and that means someone has to breach their defenses." The room fell silent as the reality sank in. Finally, Elder Thrick spoke, his scales a determined gold color. "My people will provide escort ships. We will ensure the Defiance reaches its target." Outside, the sky darkened as the swarm positioned itself around Earth. The first attacks came against the orbital defense platforms. Nicole Gray coordinated the response from her station at Earth Control. "Platform Sentinel is under attack. All nearby ships respond." The battle for Earth began in earnest. Swarm ships descended by the hundreds, met by humanity's combined fleet. The space around the planet became a storm of weapons fire and exploding vessels. On the ground, Major Frank Collins led the defense against swarm forces that broke through. Cities worldwide had been fortified, transformed into hardened positions where civilians sheltered in underground bunkers while soldiers fought above. "They're pushing toward the power stations," Frank reported from his position in what was once Chicago. "They're learning our infrastructure weaknesses. Hold as long as you can," William ordered. "The Defiance is about to launch." In orbit, the EDF Defiance powered up its engines. The ship was barely combat-worthy, with patches covering damaged hull sections and systems running on backup power. But in its heart, it carried humanity's last hope, Lisa Warren's enhanced Quantum Scrambler. "All hands, this is the captain," Kyle announced over the ship's comm. "Our mission is simple. Deliver this package to the heart of the enemy command ship. We've trained for this. We're ready for this." The Defiance launched from Earth's orbit, accompanied by 12 escort ships, a mix of human vessels and those provided by Elder Thrix and the other alien allies. They immediately came under attack as swarm forces recognized the threat. From the command center, William and the others watched the Defiance's progress through Nicole's communication network. The small fleet fought valiantly, escort ships sacrificing themselves to clear a path. "They're approaching the command ship," Nicole reported, her voice tight with tension. 7 escort ships lost. Defiance has taken heavy damage but is still moving. On the Defiance's bridge, Kyle gripped his chair as the ship shuddered under another impact. "Status of the Scrambler?" His science officer checked the readings. "Device is intact and ready for deployment, Captain." "Weapons, clear us a path to their main docking area. We're going in hot." The Defiance fired everything it had left, creating a momentary gap in the swarm's defenses. Kyle drove his ship directly toward the opening, straight at the massive command vessel. 30 seconds to impact," he reported calmly to Earth Command. William's voice came through clearly. "Godspeed, Captain." "It's been an honor, sir." Boris Defense Recalvari crashed through the outer hull of the swarm command ship, burying itself deep inside the alien vessel. The impact was felt throughout the swarm fleet as the Queen sensed the intrusion. In the command center, Lisa monitored the Scrambler's signal. "Device is active, it's working." Across the battlefield, something extraordinary happened. The swarm ships stopped moving in unison. Some continued attacking, others drifted aimlessly, while some began firing on each other. "The hive mind is fragmenting," Olivia explained, watching the biological readings. "The drones are losing their connection to the Queen." William turned to Admiral Jackson. "Now, hit them with everything we have left." Earth's remaining defenses opened fire on the disorganized swarm. Without central coordination, the once unstoppable force became vulnerable. Ships that would have sacrificed themselves in perfect coordination now tried to flee or fought alone. On the ground, Frank Collins watched in amazement as the swarm drones attacking his position suddenly stopped, some turning against each other. "They're confused," he reported. "Whatever you did up there, it's working down here too." The battle turned quickly. Human and allied forces pressed their advantage, destroying swarm vessels by the hundreds. At the center of it all, the massive command ship began to break apart from within as the scrambler's effect reached the Queen herself. "We're detecting a massive energy buildup in the command ship," Nicole warned. "I think it's going to, Blinding flash lit up Earth's orbit as the swarm command ship exploded. The destruction of the Queen sent shockwaves through the remaining swarm. Some drones simply shut down, while others went completely berserk without guidance. In the aftermath, as cleanup operations began, William stood at a window looking up at the sky. Elder Thrix joined him. "You did what no species has done before," the alien said. "You stood against the swarm and won." "At a terrible cost," William replied, thinking of the Defiance and her crew. "Yes, but now the galaxy knows that the swarm can be defeated. The Council species will return, claiming they always believed in your success." William smiled grimly. "They'll find Earth changed, and humanity changed with it." In the following weeks, the remaining swarm forces were eliminated from the solar system. Without their queen, they became disconnected individuals rather than a hive mind. Some were even captured alive for study. 1 month after the battle, representatives from the Galactic Council returned, led by Zexthal. They found themselves facing not just humans but a coalition of species that had stood together against the swarm. "The Council recognizes Earth's great victory," Zexthal began, addressing the assembled leaders. "We propose Earth be granted a seat of honor." William cut him off. "We don't need your approval or your honors. The species who stood with us when you ran, they're our true allies." Olivia stepped forward. "We're forming a new alliance, one based on mutual defense, not abandonment when things get difficult." The Council representatives looked uncomfortably at each other as they realized the balance of power had shifted. 6 months later, ships from across the galaxy arrived at Earth. Not to flee from a threat, but to join the new alliance humanity had formed. Species that had lived in fear of the swarm for generations now looked to Earth for leadership. William watched from the rebuilt orbital platform as vessels from dozens of worlds took position around Earth. When every species fled, humanity stood their ground, Elder Thrix said, standing beside him. "And now the galaxy stands with humanity." William nodded. "We remember those who fell so others could live. The Defiance and her crew, the soldiers on Mars. All those who believed we could win when victory seemed impossible. Below them, Earth continued to rebuild. Beyond them, the stars beckoned with new possibilities. Humanity had faced extinction and emerged stronger, no longer alone in the vast universe but leading the way forward. Not just survivors but defenders. Not just defenders but victors.